Your monthly subscription box from postflybox.com includes all the materials needed to tie a dozen flies, along with some extra goodies. The hothead Euro pheasant tail is a great little pattern that has a colorful head to attract attention, yet a body that closely imitates a natural insect. Kind of the best of both worlds when it comes to catching trout. Begin by getting hold of one of the size 16 nymph hooks. Pick up one of the bright pink 2.5mm beads and insert the point of the hook into the small hole of the bead. Then slide it forward up the hook shank to right behind the eye. You can then get the whole assembly firmly secured in the jaws of your tying vise. Solder wire is used to add weight to the fly and to help stabilize the bead. While holding one end of the wire in the fingertips of your left hand, begin taking wraps around the hook shank with your right. 7 turns generally works pretty well. With the wraps complete, helicopter to break the wire off close. Although not absolutely necessary, a very small drop of superglue applied to the hook shank between the bead and the wraps before the wraps are slid forward really helps to both anchor the bead and allow the tag end of the wire to be tucked in without all the wraps spinning. Ideally, the wire wraps should extend to about the midpoint of the hook shank. Load a bobbin with the spool of dark brown 8/0 thread. Get your thread started on the hook shank immediately behind the wire and take a few wraps rearward before snipping off the tag. Continue taking thread wraps, first forward over top of the wire wraps to the back edge of the bead, then return your thread back down so it rests at the hook point. Brown Indian neck hackle is used to form the tail of the fly. Begin by stripping away any fuzzy or misshapen lower fibers from the stem. Then, pull down a dozen or so fibers on one side so they're perpendicular to the stem. While keeping their tips aligned, strip them free. By aligning the butt ends with your index finger, you're also aligning the tips. Measure to form a tail about a hook shank in length and transfer that measurement rearward to the start of the hook bend. Take wraps of tying thread to firmly anchor the hackle fibers to the top of the hook shank. Make sure to go all the way back to the start of the bend. You can then wrap forward back to the hook point. Pull up on the butt ends of the fibers and snip them off, so when you take thread wraps, the fibers butt right up against the wire wraps to help smooth the transition. Pull a small amount of brown dubbing free from the packet and use it to create a thin noodle on your tying thread, approximately 1.5 inches in length. When you're done, start taking wraps with the noodle so the dubbing begins right at the base of the tail. Then continue taking touching wraps forward to create the body of the fly. It's okay if you go all the way up to the bead. Cut a 5-inch length from one of the strands of pearl flashabou, then fold it in half and locate the midpoint of the doubled over piece. Place that midpoint on top of the hook shank at the back edge of the bead and take a few wraps to secure it. Then, pull all the flashabou rearward and take thread wraps to lock it down for a length equal to that of the bead. Now, coax an even smaller clump of dubbing free from the packet and begin building a short, somewhat loose dubbing noodle on your tying thread, maybe 1 inch in length. Start taking wraps with the noodle to build up a bulbous little thorax on the fly, ending with your tying thread at the back edge of the bead. Pull all the flashabou forward out over top of the bead and anchor it with a few firm thread wraps. Pulling back on the flashabou and placing some jam wraps up against it before snipping the excess off will help to prevent it from pulling free. Do a 4 or 5 turn whip finish to cover the flashabou butts and secure your tying thread. Finally, snip the thread free. You should be left with a fly that has a fairly slender abdomen, an ample thorax, and a shiny flashabou wing case. This fly fish is great even in the cold winter months.